this is my 2016 Lexus RC 350 F Sport. What we're doing today is we're taking off the stock exhaust and we're swapping on some Axlebacks from Remark on there. Obviously the car is really high up in the air. You don't really need to do this. It's a lot easier. The bolts are right there from the back, really easy to access. We're lifting up today just so you get more visual so you can see what we're doing under there. So as you can see on these aftermarket exhausts, it goes from the axle to the back of the car. That's why they call it an Axleback. Completely removes rear mufflers on there, just a straight pipe through. Also converts the F Sport tips to these dual tips on here. I went with the polished ones. You can get the burnt ends as well too. I just think the polished one's a little more cleaner look, a little more natural. This is also the double-walled version. You can get single-walled versions. Double-walled means that you have this inside lining here. The inside lining is a smaller diameter than the outside. That's when you get this kind of rounded in look there. Single walls would just be straight metal on the outside, so you just see a straight tube. Kind of similar to what the end of this looks like. This system is pretty much stock bolt-on. Uses stock mounting points on the end and also uses the same bracking mounting points as well. So this should be a pretty simple installation, nothing too hard about it, but we'll see when we get into it. These are the bolts to the exhaust that we're gonna have to remove. This is pretty much the only mounting points as far as what it's tightened on. There are still slides that go into the exhaust rubber mounts. They just slide in and out, so these are the only parts we actually have to loosen. Nut on here is a 14mm, so I've got a wrench. We also got a socket on a gun as well too, so we'll kind of see what fits, what works the best. We're gonna see if I can just take that off. So lefty loosey will be that, hey, ooh, that's really on there. So this part where the drive shaft attaches to the differential is when I put my wrench in there to get on that bolt, it's right in the way of where I want to turn it. So gotta try to find another angle. If that doesn't get you going, I don't know what will. Real ergonomic down here. Hey, we got one. The only problem is I can't get this one now. The other side's at too big of an angle for this socket to fit on. So that's the bolt that came out, and the spring goes on there like that. And then this fixed welded bolt here on the other side, that's what it loops through. So I'm getting like, I don't know, 5 degrees of rotation each time I do this. We've had a lot of rain the last couple of days, so you see some condensation coming out of the exhaust, dripping out of there. Yeah, or there's oil coming out of it, you know. So I've gotten the bolt loose enough with the wrench now that it's actually just hand tight. So I can finish it the rest of the way just by twisting with my hand, go a little faster. I'm still gonna hold up the exhaust in front of it just so it doesn't drop. I don't think it's going to, but like I said, I don't want exhaust in the face. And that bolt comes out, we'll put it together, and now, manually, just using my hands, I'm not gonna be able to get this off. So I got some channel locks here, and I got some lubricant here. It's just soap and water. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna spray soap on this end of it, and then on the inside, and then we're gonna position our channel lock so on the inside of it, and then right there on the tip, and then we're gonna squeeze it, and it slides in pretty easily. And there we go, and now that's off. And then all that liquid pours out of there. I'm actually gonna stick this back in there a little bit just to hold it up, so hopefully it doesn't drop down when I get to the back hangers. If it does, it's stock exhaust, I'm not putting it back on, so dents or damages I don't care about. So these are the 2 hangers on the end of the exhaust. All we have to do is do the same thing we just did on that sideways one. So I'm gonna spray the soapy water on there and then use the channel locks, and I'm just gonna push it straight back. Lubricant a little bit in there. Okay, so I've got that one in. Just past where you see the mushroom tip, so I just went through just past that. Ooh. I think that one's just in as well. Let's work this side again. That one's out as well. Okay. Ooh. So I've got one side out. So there is a tool designed specifically for this. Looks almost like a ball joint remover, where it's got kind of a fork on one side and then a kind of piston or pin on one side, and it just squeezes through to squeeze out these exhaust hangers. I got channel locks at home, so I'm using channel locks rather than buying a $30 tool to do this, and it's working. Maybe not as easily, but it's working. Ooh. That side's free. And you can't tell I'm using, might not be official I use this, but I'm using 1 foot to kind of put some pressure on there. If you had another person helping out, it might be a little easier to do, but I think I'm working out so far. Ooh. And there we go. Quick and easy. All right, just put that to the side. And now we have the exhaust off. Ta-da! I think it's easier to start with these 2 front ones here, because I can kind of just slide those in place, and once that's at the correct distance I want it at, I can slide in the sideways one. So before I put these in there, I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to lube these up a bit, make sure these are all soapy. So these slide, now they're all lubed up, these slide in pretty easily actually. So they go into place. And as it's pulling up, I'm gonna slide in here. I'm gonna lube this up and get this slided in there. And there it goes, and that slides in pretty easily. So the exhaust kit came with these new nuts, because the ones that were on previously on the opposite side of this bolt are welded on the old exhaust. They're in place, so I can't take those off. This actually makes it easier to put the new exhaust back on. What I can do is I just slide this bolt through the exhaust and then just hold that in place and use this nut to tighten that on from one side. I think it's gonna be a little easier to access this nut than it was to this bolt on this side. Less things are in the way. So what I've got to do is just twist this exhaust into place so it lines up pretty well with the exhaust already on there. I'm not going to tighten these down all the way. I'm just going to kind of get them set in position, and I'll still move the exhaust around a little bit just to make sure I don't cross thread anything. So now I've got that one started. Got to pull my other side out. All right, so I've got both nuts started on the bolts. Now I'll twist this into position so it seats properly on there. Yeah, so exactly what I was saying with those new nuts. I can just hold the bolt with the spring on one side with this wrench and use this ratchet to actually tighten down the nut itself on the new ones, the gold ones on this side. That makes it, I have a lot more room to do that. It makes everything a lot more easier. I don't know if you guys hear that. All I'm hitting is this plastic part that's underneath the car. It's just a plastic cover, so I'm not worried about damaging anything at all. So I'm not gonna tighten one side down fully. What I'm gonna do is tighten down one side a little bit, move over to the other side, tighten it down a little bit, and just keep going back and forth like that to make sure I get a proper fit on the exhaust. So from the factory, these bolts have a torque spec of 32 foot-pounds. The instructions just say go tight with them, so I'd leave that to your discretion. I don't know, yeah. I don't officially say, hey, you know, just do it tight, you know? Make it tight, make it right. Bottom line is this is an exhaust, so as long as you don't have no leaks, everything's still as tight as it should be, you'll be okay. So I got all the bolts all tied up on the new side. There's no gasket on these, on the factory exhaust. They're just kind of like a flange that fits into each other. The new kit didn't come with an gasket either, so I'm just gonna make sure everything's all tight and fit in there snugly. Now I'm gonna move on to the other side, get these bolts loosened up, and see if they can get this one out. Yeah, this side's going a lot easier. Now that I know the right tool and the right angle to hit it at. All right, so now I've got both sides on. Second side went way easier than the first. Once I knew what kind of tools to use and the right kind of angles to hit it at, it was way easier to go with. One thing I didn't think about when I was buying this kit was actually the weight savings. So the old muffler weighs about 20 pounds each on each side, and the new ones weigh about 11 pounds, 11 to 10 pounds. So I'm almost saying that's a, what was that? 20 pounds of weight savings? So that's about 20 pounds of weight savings. So there's probably not gonna be any horsepower gains, definitely not anything large enough to notice. The sound isn't going to be enough for me, and the weight savings is an added bonus on top of it all. On that note, let's get it lowered down, we'll see how it sounds. So I've done some extensive testing on this, meaning that it's been about 2 years since I installed it, and now we're filming the outro for this video. So I can say I have had a lot of experience between daily driving this thing and how I feel about it. And I have to say it's probably one of the best things I could have bought for this car at this moment. We'll see how crazy we get with it, but I think it's one of the simplest things you can do to completely change the feel of the car. It feels a lot more lively of a car, it feels a lot more like a sports car rather than just a kind of a toned down luxury car. I'm standing right next to where the car is on and idling, and I think you can hear me clearly. You don't hear the car very loud at all, so the mic is right here in my chest. So the car still keeps kind of some of its luxuriness. It's still a little bit quiet, but then when you really want to get on it, you can hear it. So the only drawback is that, again, it's a very simple exhaust system. There's nothing too insane. So it's just removing mufflers, basically. So you will get a little bit of a drone around 45 to 50 miles an hour. It's a V6, you know, maybe if you had a V8 or something like that, it probably wouldn't be that bad, but it's a standard V6 engine. So when you're sitting at around probably 1500, 2000 RPM constant, there's a little bit of a drone, but you only really notice if the radio's off. You know, if your radio's on at any kind of decent volume, it's not bothersome at all. The sound deadening in the car is still great. It's a Lexus, you know, it's still a luxury car. So the sound deadening does a lot of help for that kind of stuff. I think when I first bought the car, it made me really wish I bought the RCF. And then with this exhaust, you know, I feel okay having the 6-cylinder. You know, I feel okay not paying 20 grand more for that and paying for that kind of gas mileage and things. You know, yeah, it's got new wheels on it. I think those weren't on it last time. What that has to do with this video, but you know, that's. So go ahead, hit that like button for us. Go ahead, subscribe, make a comment if you like this, if you didn't like it, let us know. We'll see you in the next one.